nobody's got anything right now, what are you guys most excited for? Anything that you can talk about?
Other than the Party Bear birthday celebrations will be kicking off in 15 minutes max, I'll leave this one to Dylan to roll us into the Year of the Rabbit.
So I'm most excited for Buzzies. You know, I spent so much of my time and effort focused on the trailer, on some of the gameplay animations that you'll see. But the Buzzies has a really big team behind it, and they're designed to be a companion of the bears. And we're going to tie that lore in directly. And I was shocked at when I started seeing some of the renders come off the press. And it's one of the highest quality, essentially airdrops I've ever seen. And I think you guys are going to really like it. Everything feels so unique, such a level up continuously. So I'm really excited about that. And then Buzzies, we're going to follow a similar path as the Thingies did. The Thingies immediately dove into utility with such an amazing utility that I still play with, and I know a lot of people do. And Buzzies are going to have a similar but different utility that will be core to our world and universe and the ability to make things.
Yeah, Aaron mentioned it was kind of like building structures sort of thing, or maybe like wearables in a way, like a honeycomb structure in different ways. So yeah, excited to see what all Buzzies have in store for us. Thanks for the answer.
Papa Bear, what was the team? Sorry, Papa Bear, what was over the last 12 months? Like, you talk about the team for working on Buzzies and with yourself heavily onto the trailer side of things. Like, what has the team grown? Have you grown your side of things from a point of view of getting new people on board, or was there, did you have the existing skills, already on your team?
The team did grow a lot. I mean, it was a lot of hiring people, in our network already. A lot of people work, we're in Los Angeles. We have a studio in West Hollywood. We've worked with people from all over studios. A lot of animators jump around to studios based on, what movie, what TV they're working on. But everyone wants a home that feels more like a family. And I think Non-Fungible Labs and Futureverse is doing a great job of providing that. So we started reaching out to some of the best animators, best artists we know, and getting them on board. Kelly Perez was a fantastic director of the trailer. Benjamin Riker, fantastic CG supervisor. Previously he was working on Hogwarts and Fortnite cinematics. So we started staffing that up. Also globally, we've got a lot of great talent all over the world. So we definitely did staff up. And, I think, one of the frustrations that I have is just, I want more people to look at this as one entire ecosystem. So when we did join forces with Futureverse and Non-Fungible Labs, it didn't become like, all right, here's the Party Bear priority list and here's the FLUF World priority list. They all have their own roadmaps, but we're all on the same priority list because we all, have the same shared resources now and people. So our team, we worked on the Seeker's ray gun animation. We worked on the mycelium animation. And we did that because, a rising tide lifts all ships. And we wanted this to be about the ecosystem, and we wanted to go very far together, as opposed to just doing something really big and splashy just for Party Bear right off the bat.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, that was something for me to get my head around early, was how the integration was working, and then seeing the skill set that you guys brought into into NFL and the Futureverse, and that's obviously shown through with the quality of the trailer and that work. I think there's just that still that little phase to get through with with where Party Bears came from, and then I think once Buzzies get through and into the ecosystem, I think there's more sort of integration and to come still from those that maybe are just hanging on the periphery from the bear side of things.
Totally. And we really looked at Non-Fungible Labs and Futureverse, and we saw some of the best engineers, some of the best gameplay designers, some of the best artists that we've seen too. So as opposed to us being like, all right, it's time to start hiring, we got a massive head start, and immediately we're like, hey, they have all the resources we need right here. Let's do this together. Of course, we'll make some compromises because we're now a family and families make compromises for each other. But it's the best decision we've ever made, I think.
Yeah.
Do you
That's good to hear, and I just think that that just hearing from yourself speak, and I just think that those are the conversations that I think 12 months is a long time in this industry, and I think if those conversations were just a little had happened even a couple of times throughout the year would have been great for the community to hear yourself and others speak about the process.
Totally, and we'll get back to a good cadence. It's funny because every time I do it, it's like I love it and I do enjoy this, and this is what it's all about, and I'm reminded that this is why we do it. But when I'm not doing it and I'm just standing in front of my computer, so focused in some software, some animation, it's hard to get that energy to start it. But I'm glad this is a good reminder of that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your time.
So with the real world environments that we see in the trailer, do you guys as the Shadow Animation team have any play or role in how you would like to see those environments come to life? Or were you guys sort of waiting for it to come to life and then, okay, how do we work with this? How did that process go down for you guys?
That's a good question. It's a lot of world building, and it starts with the visual development. Right? So in our studio, we'll start with doing visual development. It could start all the way from a stick figure. It could be a reference that is another animation or a live action movie, or it could even be a doll or a toy. You just start gathering references and building up a vibe, a feeling of what you want something to be. And then, the process starts to go into a bit of a back and forth with artists because it's not so easy. When you have a vision, you have it in your head. It's essentially an animated environment in your head. And then how you get it into Unreal Engine, it never looks one-to-one. So then there's a process of notes going back and forth, but every little detail can change anything. Lighting is a huge thing, how you light something, how you texture something, the materials you choose to use. Every little decision has to be thought of. A lot of it can be procedurally generated, but not until you've actually kind of laid that foundation. So our studio will do a lot of that with a lot of the artists from Non-Fungible Labs. Jesse's involved in all of that, and a lot of our game artists are involved in that as well.
No, it's really awesome. Like finally, when we see the backgrounds, it sort of gives us a glimpse on what we might expect, but when we actually see it in the trailer and it's like actually coming to life, it gets me excited. My imagination and my curiosity of wanting to explore the different worlds and the different environments. And within that comes in like, okay, how do we make traveling through these experiences not only aesthetically beautiful, but actually like, what makes me want to go over here or what makes me want to go over there? I don't know if you've ever played like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but that world map environment, I feel like was so well done. It just really like imbued this curiosity of like, oh wow, what's over there? And it was less about like finishing the game. It was more about, okay, what can I explore? Do you find that's going to be part of your goal and part of like what you guys want to portray in the end product, or is it a little bit of, it's a mixture of a bunch of things, I guess?
Absolutely. I think the key is making a really immersive experience. And like I mentioned, every detail really matters into that. The sound, the feel, the walk cycles. I played a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2. And one thing that I would just really enjoy doing is just getting on my horse and just riding the trails. And it has this like meditative feeling that washes over you almost, that it doesn't feel like playing a video game did when you were growing up. It feels immersive. It feels kind of like what virtual reality wanted to be. But now that these environments and everything is just coming together with such a high quality, it's such a good meditative experience. And I really do enjoy that and look forward to that being a big part of the game we make.
That was like I saw a trailer. I'm not a massive gamer, from not for so many years, but I saw a trailer of a Hogwarts Legacy game just released, and flying around on the broomstick, and it was just like made me think about what it would be like in different experiences in the Third Kingdom. So it's it's exciting to see how that starts to come together. And just a quick question on the Buzzies. Aaron mentioned at one stage that how like utility evolved over time from original concept. Can you comment on anything, I suppose, like that journey of like how Buzzies what the original sort of plan was to where it is now?
Yeah, I don't know how much I can comment on that, being that, I'm not the person who led it through that journey. But I can basically say that, it started as something pretty singular that would have been in the realm of, a zombie or something like that. And I think a lot of people who were there at the beginning kind of remember that genesis. But what we realized and what we learned from the success of Thingies is that it can more than just one narrow use case. And really it can take on a life of its own and a utility of its own. So the Buzzies massively expanded. And to be honest, we're a victim of a bit of scope creep, but all the best projects are, took James Cameron about 8 years to make the next Avatar. And this is a kind of a smaller version of that. But these Buzzies definitely grew into something bigger, more diverse, more exciting, and more utility than we could have ever imagined at the beginning. And it's a lot of thanks to the artists that kind of jumped onto that. And some of the concept designs we saw were just so cool. We're like, all right, we have to invest in that. We have to build that out. We have to see where this takes us. And then they were given, because it was such a high quality product, they were given a very important utility that will exist inside of the Third Kingdom in the Futureverse.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, there was just some comments like Aaron mentioned, I think maybe in a Twitter Spaces, just talking about how, the scenes had, like the interactive scenes and how they'd evolved, and, that they'll be playable game environment. So it definitely seemed like there's a lot of depth that's been put into the projects, which is awesome.
Also, so you made the trailer. There's going to be the gameplay. Like, where do you think your focus is going to be in the next year? Obviously, that you guys just released the road tripping part 2. Do you see that becoming like a mini show series, and it's beyond just the second episode, or do you guys have other priorities in other areas for now?
It's a good question, and I've been battling and thinking about that a lot. And honestly, over the break, in Christmas vacation that we're going to take a couple of days, I'm going to do a lot of thinking about that and where this IP is going to head, because here's the reality of it. Animation is super expensive, and you can't just animate everything you want to, because you'll run out of money real quick. You have to be smart about what you create, the story you tell. Now, the beauty of it is those costs are coming down rapidly thanks to things like, Stable Diffusion, Midjourney, and new procedural AI tools, but also just game engines, Epic, Unreal, Unity. So I think we're going to combine into doing a lot of R&D into animation, so that my goal, both like professionally and personally, is I want to, over the next few years, make a movie that costs $5 million that looks like it cost $100 million. And I think 10 years ago that would have been ridiculous, but I think over the next few years it's becoming increasingly possible. And it's still going to involve artists, of course. It's going to be entirely built by artists. It's not going to be AI, but AI is going to assist the artists in ways that are going to save them a lot of time and money. So when we combine that R&D with really good writing, top of the year, we're going to start reaching out and putting together a team of really, really world-class writers to help us sink further into this IP, with the great work that obviously Blake, Riley, and the rest of our internal writing team have done in order to start build out this universe even further. And it's going to involve a lot of creative, and it's going to take a bit, but it's going to be worth it. So I think we're going to combine those two things, R&D and storytelling.
So
sorry, Tyler. I was just going to ask about is there, with like advancements in tech even over the last 12 months, and you mentioned how AI is evolving, with the original plan for venues and possibilities and scope for that, has there been advancements in tech that's changed that plan or enabled potentially different possibilities for the future for how you see that project evolving?
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's definitely a lot going on there. Venues is kind of more in the lines of what you can expect from Burrows in the Third Kingdom. It's going to be an experience. It's going to be a place. But it's also very difficult to, some of the best work needs to be done upfront in order to make an experience like that. So deciding what the experience for the user and the music and how those two coincide is super important. So I don't know how much, technology can replace just pure gameplay design, but I know it is replacing things like, the creation of a library of 3D assets. If you want to create 500 different plants, you're going to use a lot of AI and procedural generation to do that. Same with if you want to create hours and hours of music.
So just to give us a bit of a scope, like Angry Birds 2, Pixar, Disney movies, like how much money does it cost to produce a full 3D visual experience these days?
Somewhere between 80 and 120 million dollars will be the budget. But what's even more interesting than that is then they'll pretty much double that with an additional $100 million to market the film and make sure people see it. So, that's how that business kind of operates. There's a lot of innovative stuff happening within game engine in cinema, but no one has really built someone has, but it's, there was a reason you haven't heard of it, built a movie entirely in engine. So I think that'll change over the next few years, and we'll start to see more and more come out of that at cheaper costs and faster rates, because cost is the same thing as time, right? The reason that something costs $100 million is because you're paying people over the course of 4, 5, 6 years to make it. Some Pixar movies take 8 to 10 years to make. So that's where those costs really start to pile up.
Yeah, now the quality of those films, I can see where the costs come from, because it just takes you to another world. And to hear you say that $5 million in the next few years to produce an engaging, immersive story where it takes you to another world. It may not be quite at the standard as Pixar's, but does it have to be, as long as it brings you into the environment and you get to enjoy more creative endeavors? Because what I would like to see is as AI and these tools start assisting us, the capabilities of indie developers and people that don't have as much of the funding to make these films can actually start coming into the limelight. So it's really I'm welcoming the whole AI thing. I think a lot of people maybe get scared on what it's going to do, but I think it will replace some jobs but enhance others. So I'm looking forward to it just as much as you are, by the sounds of it.
Definitely.
If anyone has any questions, or if they...
Hey, I have a question.
Hey, go ahead.
So regarding the development of the Burrows, I know that someone told me it's on the phone that you can go on it. Would you guys know when we'll be able to go on the computer? Thanks for your time.
I can't speak to that roadmap and the when of that, but it is a priority and it is being worked on. I don't know if there's anyone on this call that can speak more to that timeline, but yeah.
There was, the last I heard was they really want to bring multiplayer in at a similar time, but bringing in multiplayer and having you just walk around in the Burrows is cool and all, but the novelty is going to wear off. So I think the idea is to actually give some things that we can do within the space, so it actually makes it a bit more enjoyable to actually want to stay there and come back and experience some of the things that they want to offer. So I think there's a bit more of a delay. I'm not sure if the VR experience on PC is still going to come out earlier, but in terms of multiplayer and bringing out more utility to the Burrows is the team's focus from last I heard.
Yeah, and I think a more important question would be not necessarily when, but what, what kind of activities, are we going to be doing in the Burrows long term, and kind of what's the team thinking around that, maybe?
Yeah,
I
mean, when we look at the trailer, there was a scene of a bunch of the FLUFful characters looking at the screen, and what you see is the AFA game being played. And I think that's something that as AFA comes out and more of these, the research and development is actually in post-production and we get to start accessing it in the early beta, I think we'll be happily surprised with some of the things that they come up with. Because when we think about Web3 and the cross-compatibility and the interoperability of it all, we can start to see some interesting things come out of it. that has never really been possible. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. And I think with every delay, Aaron has always really been specific, and there's always a good reason for it. And I know Aaron did say that, you know, maybe they haven't been the best in explaining that properly to the community, but there's always a good reason for it. Yeah.
I'm gonna put a little bow on this and wrap it up, because we do have DJ starting in 5 minutes, and we also got some exciting announcements coming up. So I want to give you guys some room to breathe. I appreciate everyone coming into the chat and asking really good questions. This was really fun for me, and you know, I'm gonna do it more often in the new year and bring you guys along for the ride. So I appreciate all the questions again, and if there's anything else you want to know, just hit me up.
Really appreciate it, man. Really good conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Hello, Party Bears. Happy birthday.
If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!